Yay Networks.
Welcome to Greg Louganis is Alive, the podcast that challenges what you think you know. I'm your host, Greg Louganis, and yes, I'm still alive. And I'm joined with a very good friend and my manager, Beth Zinman.
Hello, hello. You know, I was thinking, is that true? Challenging what I think I know. So I think I know you're alive, but do you know I Googled you and it said maybe you weren't? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. You go to Google, put Greg Louganis is, and it's like, alive, dead. It's like,
yeah.
And yes, I'm still here.
Yes, yes. Yay.
Yeah. And today I'm really excited about the guest that I have on today, Michael Burke. He is an animal communicator. And it was so fascinating because I was approached, said, "Oh, I wonder what the dogs are thinking, and when they take a shoe or when they do this and that, what are they thinking?" And then they people were giving me dog trainers to interview, and I'm like, no, you don't need a dog trainer to talk about what the dog is thinking. You need an animal communicator. And so then the question was, well, what is an animal communicator? And how do they communicate? So it was just really, really fascinating that we were, having this discussion, because I try and be the best canine dad that I can be. And
you are. You totally are. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, what are they thinking? How do they feel about, bringing a new puppy into the household? What do they think? Do they like the new puppy? Are they jealous of the new puppy? It's just like, so I think it's fascinating that we're going to have an opportunity to talk to an animal communicator and how that is. What's that like?
That's very cool. I can't wait to hear that. I've had my challenges with my grand pup, my little Max.
Yeah.
And I have called on you many times to ask you things or just go, is this right? So, yeah.
Yeah. And I get that a lot of times because of all of the work that I do with dogs. Well, what is the dog thinking when it does this? And I have no idea. 'Cause I'm looking at the behavior. If I like the behavior or don't like the behavior, then I try and reward the behavior that I like. But I don't know how they feel about putting a sweater on. When people are dressing up their dogs and all that stuff. But
so can your guests tell you that, like how they feel about putting a sweater on?
Yeah, I mean that's and my understanding is that they communicate through pictures, and feelings or sensations. There's different ways of that animal communicators kind of get messages from their patients. I don't know. Do you call them patients? They're animal friends.
That's a question.
So. Yeah. We'll dig into that.
Well, I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah. So Michael's an animal communicator, behavior consultant, and intuitive life coach. He communicates with animals intuitively through pictures, words, and feelings in order to answer questions, find solutions, and provide people and animals with peace, harmony, and confidence and clarity. Michael will be releasing his book on intuitive animal communication with Hay House, publishing in 2024. So I'm really looking forward to that. And we'll be back with Michael right after this break. thank you so much for joining us today. And it's funny because they, like today we're talking about our little furry friends who give us incredible joy and unconditional love. And that was like when they wrote that out, I was like, well, do they? But do they? Is it unconditional? Or because Michael, you're an animal communicator. And so I was so fascinated about that, about, talking, speaking to the animals. I mean, what was it like growing up?
So growing up, I was always around animals. I came from a big Irish Catholic family. And so I say the Catholic part and the Irish part because there was a lot of belief in saints and angels and the afterlife and the mystical, but from a very traditional Catholic, a frame of reference. And I am the youngest of 6 kids, and all of the others are a lot older than me. And the oldest is 20 years older than me. And so when I was growing up, we'd sit around the table. Everybody was an animal lover. We had an Irish Terrier, Corky, because my dad wanted to get an Irish Terrier that was the grandfather Blackacre Barrister, the champion #1 Irish Terrier in the country. And I was like, I just want a dog. I don't care if it's Irish or I just want a companion. But he's like, no, we got to get the Irish Terrier. And so we had Corky, but there was always this talk about, tuning into our vibes and energy and our dreams. And it was more my brothers and sisters that would be talking about this around the dinner table. And my parents were kind of like cautious, but still open to it, coming from that, praying and believing in a higher power kind of perspective. And so it just was normal to me to be open to things beyond what we see and to tune into energy and my intuition. And so I grew up just not only seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting, but sensing my environment. And so that just was natural from a young age, just based on my older brothers and sisters who were not only talking about this stuff, but studying metaphysics and, intuition, tarot and astrology. So that I was, reading books that they had on their shelves and listening to meditation tapes and just kind of like picking up some of their scraps, so to speak, while living with animals. And I had a Corky as well as a ferret. And then there were a lot of cats in the neighborhood. So I just would be naturally, tuning in to the animals and didn't think anything of it until I was in high school and college. I started to get more into the intuitive exploration and, just casually doing little readings for people like, oh, let me read your cards or let me look at your astrology chart. And people started coming to me wanting me to tune into their animals. And I was like, okay, I'll kind of combine my natural connection with the animals that I know and love with the intuitive practices that I was strengthening and sort of cultivating as I was growing up. And it just started snowballing, like more and more people were coming to me wanting help with their animals and wanting me to tune in and tap in and communicate with their animals.
So Michael, what is that experience like? I mean, I understand energy. Does things come to you visually, or do words come to you through the animals? What's that experience like?
So a lot of times it's telepathic. So it'll be like pictures or images in my head that will just flash through. Sometimes I'll hear things, not literally like I'm hearing a bird, but like in my head, I'm hearing maybe a song, or sometimes I'll get a gut feeling. And often it is very symbolic. Like, so I might see, I use this example a lot to describe this. I might see an apple in my head. And as I'm with intention connecting in with a dog or a cat, I'm seeing an apple. Well, to me, it's almost like my intuition has a database of references. So the energy is what I'm receiving from the animal, but then my intuition or my being is interpreting that energy, and I will see an apple. And so the apple could be literally like what the person is feeding the dog or cat, but it could also be a symbol of like a gift that a student gives a teacher to say thank you for everything you've taught me. It could be like a door stopper that you're always tripping over at the door. It could be a pajama print with apples on it. But that a lot of times it comes through that way symbolically, and it can be a game of charades. Sometimes it's literal, like I'm hearing specific names, or just a lot of times it's like just simple things to confirm and validate the connection first before going deeper. So they'll be like, I like my ball, and it's a red ball, and it looks like a spaceship. And I'll be like, why am I seeing a spaceship and it's rubber? Oh, that's the ball. It's like, okay, we've got a connection. And then things start opening up more, if that makes sense.
So it's like getting in touch with, it's almost like learning their language, right?
Yes.
Is that first encounter of recognition, and then, putting it into a context that makes sense, right?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, wow. Now, because like growing up with dogs, animals, I mean, it was so funny because like I was with a dear friend of mine, James Von Prague.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
James, I was like sitting we were having dinner, and he goes, oh my God, there's so many animals around you. It's crazy, but that was, I loved animals. And, I think that a lot of us, feel that we can, we speak to our animals. And now do you feel that this is kind of an innate ability, or can it be learned and, and nurtured?
My feeling with it is that it can be learned and nurtured. Now, you could say, like with anything, people can learn piano, but they're not going to be an amazing pianist. Or, they could be a swimmer, but they're not going to be an Olympic gold medalist. That it could be that kind of thing. But I feel that so many people are animal people, and they're communicating with their animals in one way or another. But if they lean into it or dive into it, pun intended, they can strengthen. It's a muscle. Intuition and reading energy and feeling energy is a muscle. And most people that I connect with will say like, oh yeah, sometimes I get intuitive hits of some kind, whether it's with their animal or with a friend. Like I was thinking about a friend from high school, and then I got a call from them, and oh my God, that's so funny. So telepathy is working all the time, but when you set an intention and start really practicing to strengthen that muscle, it really can be strengthened and grown and used to the benefit of your relationship with your animals and in your life in all ways.
Do you have a particular client that maybe, it was like really, really impactful, that the communication was just really kind of, it may have been life-changing, but impactful?
Yeah, many. There was the one that's coming to mind was this woman contacted me who had a horse that she loved to ride, and she had the horse for several years, and suddenly the horse started throwing her. Every time she'd get on the horse would like throw her off. And fortunately, she never was injured, but she was very scared and nervous about moving forward with the horse, riding in the relationship and partnership they had. And so she wanted me to connect in and figure out what was going on. And again, it can be sort of like a game of charades in the beginning. And I started to hear the words that were coming to me were sacred closure. Sacred closure, sacred closure. And I said, he's saying something about there needs to be sacred closure. So there's like almost like an energy block. You're bringing some energy to the moment of riding that is incongruent with him, that he doesn't like. So you're on him, and it's like he wants to get you off because your energy is out of alignment. And so there's some sort of like lack of sacred closure. So it turned out, long story short, the woman shared that her son had passed away, and within the past year, and her son took care of the horse. And this was pre-COVID. And it was just she and her daughter, and they never had a formal funeral for the son. And they had been meaning to, but they hadn't gotten around to it. And she said it had really been kind of bothering her and eating away at her, but she wasn't ready to do it. And she didn't want to, she just was sort of denying it all. She had accepted the death, but she didn't run and bring everybody together and go through the whole process of like formally saying goodbye, essentially. So I said, I'm feeling this energy from the horse that, he's saying you need to sort of tie this loose end. There needs to be closure, and you need to celebrate it in a ceremonial way, which would be like a funeral. So she ended up going through the process of having a little ceremony just with her and her daughter and the horse. And so they did this little private ceremony at home because she said that's what she felt most comfortable with, rather than inviting a lot of people and having a reception. And she said that a week later, she got on the horse and she was able to ride again, and it was beautiful. And she felt free of the fear, and she really felt this like new, deeper connection with the horse. So that was, she called me crying and was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even realize it. And so that was an example of an animal that was tuning into the energy, but was guiding the human through a block, essentially, to healing. So it was,
oh my God, that's
moving.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because animals, they pick up on that energy. It's so, at the forefront of who they are, really. Because I remember Freeway, my Harlequin Great Dane. He was like my guardian. He was my protector. He'd like watch everybody, and people would come in and they'd go away and all that. And he would just be kind of, stoic, keeping an eye on me. And so he wouldn't go up to strangers. He would, kind of sit and watch. He was a much better judge of character than I was. He was like, anybody who he was leery of was like, oh, they're not so, I find out later that they're not so great. But it was funny because the first time he met my dad, I remember that dad came to the house, and Freeway went right up to him and greeted him like he was me.
Oh, interesting.
It was just like, okay, yeah, I know this person. And then I took care of my dad the last 6 weeks of his life. And I had Freeway, and, I was going around the neighborhood, wheeling my dad in his wheelchair. And then Freeway just stayed right by his side. And then he looked at me and said, petting Freeway, and said, God, I wish I could have a dog. I said, Dad, you do.
That's so beautiful. And Freeway felt that, was drawn to that energetically, it sounds like.
Yeah. Now, he did hide from my niece and nephews. And when the niece and nephews came, then he was in the closet or somewhere. I couldn't find him.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times kids can be, this has come through a lot in sessions where people will say, oh, my dog is reactive to children or whatever. And I'll often feel the animal, what I see, it's me interpreting the energy, but what comes to me is like a VU meter or an equalizer on a stereo. Like the energy's up and down. It's unpredictable. And a lot of times I'll feel the dog is like wanting to correct that or diffuse that or put out that fire, or like a tumbleweed blowing by and like wanting to like, boom, smash the tumbleweed.
Smash the tumbleweed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because energy is everything to animals, and people often don't realize that, especially when it comes to behavioral challenges. If we're focusing on what we don't want, or if we're tense or nervous or anxious or fearful, if you have a sensitive animal, they're tuning into you and there's no lying to them. They're going to feel, you may pretend that you're fine and good, but the animal is like, I can,
right.
I know what's going on here and I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because one of the dogs that I have here, Pax, she's very, very sensitive to energy, and she can be, a bit reactive. But what she's reacting to is the energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and so often. I encounter that almost every day working with people in sessions. It's that the nervous, anxious, sensitive dogs who are responding to the energy around them. And often the human is caught up in the story or the past or what's happened before. And so they're worried and nervous that their dog is going to be reactive in that moment based on the past. And sometimes the dog is sensitive, but like, all right, I'm here in the moment. What are we doing? Where are we going? Who are we talking to? Oh, wait, right. I bit that person. Okay, I need to be in that energy right now. Okay, boom.
Yeah.
And so often I'll remind people, like, be mindful of your energy, ground yourself in the moment and let go of that story and show up, focusing on the energy that you do want and hold that space.
Right. That's so, that's so true. Because I really noticed that and I have to remind myself, it's like, okay, this happened. This is a new chapter. This is a new energy, new moment. Because animals really they operate in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so.
Right. Yeah, it was funny because one of the questions that I have written down, and it was a conversation I had with my husband. Actually, is it the dogs or is it him? And it's like I said, okay, the dogs. And when push comes to shove, it's the dogs and. And he said, you know what, he's that way about his work. So, it's all fair, but.
And so that circles back to what you were saying in the beginning about unconditional love.
Yes. Unconditional love.
So like, it sounds like with that, it's like, okay, well, the dogs, unconditional. Sometimes with humans, it's conditional. The conditions could be work-life balance or just different priorities, or we're more friends, or we're not really getting a lot, we're on different schedules or whatever, a lot of conditions can contribute to that. Whereas dogs, often it's like, all right, no matter what's going on, we're attached beyond the leash. We're attached. I'm leading you. I'm taking care of you. I could be in a trailer and there'll be all 6 of us and we're going to be sleeping together. I've got you.
Right.
I'm pointing to my dog sleeping. That's what I'm.
Your dogs are right over there.
Yeah.
Pointing at your dogs. Exactly. It's, they're so important to my life. They truly enrich my life, who I am. It's funny because like when I got the Harlequin Great Danes, everybody accused me of hiding behind my dogs, because they're so impressive. It's like, I'll go with that. Yeah,
That's
I was hiding behind my dogs.
Were there 2 of them? Did you have 2?
I had 3.
Oh, wow.
I had 3. I had, so Freeway was first, and then I had Leilani, my female. And then I ended up with, it happened to be Freeway's half brother, who was this deaf, white, Harlequin Great Dane. And it was funny because like I had Freeway for about almost a year. And then the breeder called me up And Sandy said, "Oh, I just have a litter of puppies. You should come over for a puppy fix." And they were probably about 7, 8 weeks old. And so the 8 puppies are like scrambling around me, jumping at me. And it was so much fun. But there was this little white puppy in the corner sleeping. And so she picks up the white puppy and plops it in my lap and says, "He's deaf." And she said, "If you don't take him, I'm probably going to have to put him down."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh my God, I thought I got that tattoo sucker across my forehead removed, but obviously I didn't. And I ended up with him, and he was just so incredible. I mean, it was, he was the dog that everybody wanted. He was so striking because he was all white, blue eyes, and sweet. Oh, so sweet.
Wow. That's amazing. And how long did he live?
He almost made it to 10.
That's great. That's a great run.
Yeah, because with Great Danes, that's why they call them a heartbreak breed. Is their life expectancy is so short, 6 to 8 years is their life expectancy, and so to have them, I was blessed to have both Freeway and Ryan for 10 years.
Wow.
So that was really incredible.
Well, and the deaf dogs, deaf, blind dogs, they're true examples of energy being everything and being able to communicate and connect through energy. Like your of course it's your commands and it's the leash work or it's the hand signals or whatever, but a lot of as we know, animals have senses beyond what we're even aware of, whether it's simply their amazing sense of smell or like tuning in and sensing pheromones or whatever, dogs that smell cancer or whatnot, bone sniffing or bomb sniffing dogs. But having a special needs animal like that, it really just like turns up the dial in your own individual animal communication and connection.
Right. I mean, it really was incredible. The things that are the adventures that we had together, and the little antics that he would he would do. One time, nothing was out of his reach too, because he was like 180 pounds. He was like huge, and so I took a roast out and put it in the sink thinking, okay, it's safe there. And then I came home and said, I could have sworn I took that roast out, and then of course, the wrappers are right by the door, but I'm sure he shared. I mean, because that's the way that he was. He helped me raise all, any of the puppies through the house.
Oh my gosh.
He was wonderful.
Oh, that's so funny. I'm sure the sink was more like a feeding
level
for
trough.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, a little trough for him. Oh, that's too funny. Now, how do people get in touch with you? If they want, a reading done or, and what you do.
My on my website, which is michaelrburke.com, MICHAELR for Ryan, BURKE.com. That's where you can book a session with me. And I'm also on Instagram at Michael Burke Official, because my name is so common. I couldn't get michaelburke.com. I couldn't get Michael Burke, on Instagram. So I had to add these little things at Michael Burke Official. I'm on Facebook as well. I offer sessions all the time. I work with dogs, cats, ferrets, horses, pigeons.
Yeah.
You name it. I've communicated with them.
Michael, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give dog owners and animal lovers, pet lovers?
The number one piece of advice is to be in the moment, be present in the moment, and really embody calm, confident leadership. Really be that calm, confident leader, clear and decisive, giving direction and protection. Because often people are not, I get this a lot in sessions, they're questioning. A lot of times they'll ask me to tune into their animal to figure out what's going on. And this happens all the time where I'll see above the animal's head, like question marks, almost in air bubbles on a cartoon. Like the dog has question marks looking to the human, and the human's got question marks above their head. And so the animal's like, all right, well, you got questions. I got questions. I'm not getting the leadership. So I'm going to take matters into my own paws, and chaos ensues. So if you're just like grounded, present, letting go of the past, not worrying about the future, just really being there and setting the intention of being a calm, confident leader for them and letting them know verbally, telepathically, most importantly, feeling it. It's one thing to say it, but to really imagine yourself feeling it. And I'll tell this to people a lot too. It's like manifesting in the law of attraction. Just start practicing the feeling of your dog, cat, whatever animal listening to you, getting along, behaving, surrendering, feeling well trained, just really feeling that, because you're going to radiate that energy, because dogs are all animals are sensitive to energy. And so they're going to feel that and respond. And that's a lot of times a huge game changer when you are developing a long lasting relationship with your pets.
Okay, I have to inject this humor. Where does humor hit in that? Because that's one thing that that I've noticed is like, when they do something a little naughty, I love naughty. So it's a little naughty, makes me laugh, and lightens the mood. And that's a lot of times the reminder that I get from my dogs is to laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge thing. And so often people are so serious when it comes to their dogs. They got to be militant, trained, behaving, staying within the lines. And I'm the same way. I'm kind of like, all right, I've got a puppy right now, an Aussie puppy he's 9 months old. And he's always picking up pillows and running outside. And he's now like at my desk where I sit, he jumps up on the couch and lays there. And there was a time where I never let the dogs on the couch unless they were invited, especially not when they were puppies. And he's breaking the rules. I'm like, you know what? You got to live a little. And he's not causing any harm. And right. Life is about having fun and the joy. Joy is a huge part of it. Love and joy is key. And so often we forget that because they've got to fit into our world. But when you kind of loosen the reins a little and allow that joy and fun to come in, it kind of diffuses the problems and the challenges. It heals them and shifts them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love what you said, just tuning into the energy, that we all have a capacity on one level or another, to be able to communicate to our pets, our beloved pets, and just tapping into that energy and, energy that we receive, energy in, energy out, which is so, so beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And when we're really strengthening that energy, honoring it and celebrating it, that's when there's that connection and they feel that and you feel it. And when you're in that space, that vibration, that's where the ultimate joy really is.
Yeah.
And I was thinking too about your, the agility, you doing the agility with your dog. Right. And being the champion, that is a perfect example. I mean, that's animal communication because it's the energy, you're communicating through scent and motion and movement and momentum. But there's also the intention. I would imagine that you are like visualizing, this is what we're doing and you're following me and you're believing in that. You're believing in him and you're believing in yourself. And then it's like your dog latches the caboose onto your train and there you go. You just made it through and won. It's the perfect example of energy. Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny because like I work with a dear friend of mine, Melissa Henning. I take lessons from her. And I have this little Hungarian Pumi who's like over the top, wild, crazy, 18 months old. And she's always reminding me, said, okay, you have to be the calm one. He's not going to be, but you have to be the calm one. Because when I'm calm, then he can think and he can do, the obstacles the way that he's supposed to do them. But if I get all hyped up, oh yeah, we're going, he gets way over the top and just can't control himself.
Oh my gosh.
And he cracks, he makes me laugh. He makes me laugh.
Oh, that's great. And that's the interesting thing about agility. It depends on the dog. Some you need to amp them up to get them. And then the other ones, you have to kind of slow them down to get them to methodically follow through and know the path. And I love that about agility because it's such a beautiful energy exchange.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time and energy. And, this has been wonderful. And being able to kind of unpack our communication and how we can better communicate with our pets, our beloved pets, and, be more in sync and aware. So yes. I want to thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm so grateful to be on your show. I'm honored. Like I said in the beginning, I'm a huge fan and huge admirer. So this is a huge blessing to be on your show. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yay Networks.